Another really popular loop is the for each loop. This is particularly important whenever you have a group of objects, for example, a group of shapes on a worksheet, and you wanted to loop through each object or shape or something on the worksheet, or each pivot table, or each text box or something on a sheet, or on something, on a user form. Maybe there's a bunch of objects you want to loop through all of those that are listed in that group. So you have to have a group of objects, and those are usually defined by Excel in VBA anyways. There's also a group in what's called a named range, and so you saw that earlier when we messed with our tax table here. So if I click on tax table, well, it's grown certainly from that point. In fact, I'm going to hit Alt-IND for your names manager. I'm going to expand this a little bit. Instead of from A1 to C6, let's just make it all the way to D11, which seems appropriate. So we'll say D11 and hit the check mark. So yeah, that's our actual named range for our tax table here. So what I want to do now, let's just do from here to here, and I'll give that a name. I'll just call it names, and hit enter. So now we have a named range called names, and it's from A2 to A11. And if you wanted, you could actually do a loop between those cells, or you could do a loop between all these cells right here. And you just say for each cell, or for each something rather, whatever variable. I'll show you. Alt F11. Let's make a new subroutine here. So we're going to say sub for each loop, and we're going to say for each, and I like to use the word cell, but I don't want it to throw you off, because you could use any word that you wanted. You could say for each blah, or for each pizza, or for each S, but I'm going to say for each cell in, and we're going to name the range. The range was called names. For each cell in the range called names. And when I hit enter, I'm going to say next, or I like to say next cell and be very specific what I'm doing, but some people like to just put next. I'm going to put next cell so it knows precisely what I'm doing. I'm going to hit up arrow and hit tab. So for each cell in our named range called names, that's from here to here. So each time there's another cell in that range, it'll go through until it's done, and then you can have more instructions afterwards. So let's see how that works. Alright, so I'm going to hit F8, and we're going to start stepping through here for each cell in range name. So you see the first cell is Geraldo, so that's correct. So the first message box is Geraldo, then it's Mikal, June. So it's working. But there's also other instances that you can use. Like I said, there's a lot of different instances, especially when you get into user forms, or when you get into ActiveX controls, like a list box or a combo box, which is your drop-down menus. So you might want to go through each item in your list. So you might say for each blah, or for each cell in that control dot list. And that would get you all the items in the list one by one. If you wanted to exit the loop at any time, you could say something like this. Let's say if the cell, or if blah, if the variable equals, let's say if it equals Kelly, which we happen to know that's the fourth result. If the cell equals Kelly, then you could say exit for, or you could say exit sub if you wanted to completely cut off the entire procedure. If you say exit for, why, then our loop is going to stop considering the next cell in the range, and it's just going to go right here to the very end and continue on after the loop with whatever instructions you have there. And again, if you put exit sub, why, it's going to prematurely close off any further instructions for that procedure. So let's try that really quick. For each cell in range names, why, the first cell is that equal to Kelly? No, it's Geraldo. So do a message box, then we have Mikal and a message box. But now, if cell equals Kelly, then, so if I hit F8, exit 4, well, it moves on to any instructions that are down here, which there are none, so it ends the sub. So that's how to handle using a for each loop, and we will definitely get into more of that, especially when you use ActiveX controls and when we're talking about user forms and all kinds of fun, really fun stuff that's up to come. So that's how to do the for each loop.